So this video, I didn't pre-watch the video, but I pre-watched the video he's responding to, which I did think was a great video. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I watched maybe a third of this video and it infuriated me. As usual, they just play dumb and they never actually respond to the arguments the person is making. So that's why I went back and actually watched her whole video to kind of get a feel for the arguments, and they're arguments we've made a bunch of times. Obviously art is becoming propaganda. It's not really about exploring the human condition. It's about proselytizing wokeness to people.
Oh yeah. And and there's one part of her video, well, it's not long, it's like kind of long, it's like 8 minutes, that I think we should watch, because I think he's pretty deceptive in the way that he talks about it.
Really? Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
But no, like, yeah, because it's like a 30-minute video. Everyone should watch it. What's her channel name? Is Joomi, Joomi Kim, Joomi Kim. But no, this guy, I think we should start calling him woke progressive mustache.
Okay.
Because that's what it looks like to me.
Sure.
Like that's how he, like, the face. That's what I see. I just see the woke progressive mustache. And
I was
the thing
thinking
about this,
man carrying water.
Oh, that's good too. Because that's good too. Because his channel is man carrying thing, so now it's man carrying water. Yeah, I like it.
It seems like that's what he's doing here.
Right.
He's like opening up. He's on his hands and knees, ready to take that big woke.
Take the big woke load.
Exactly.
And he's gonna take the biggest woke load and he's gonna carry it across deserts. No, this guy has like the same shtick, okay, where he does this thing. It's like so dishonest. It's so dishonest. Where at least like a lot of the other social spread tuber types, they're like, oh, I don't like this thing because it's not woke progressive, right? At least they're more upfront with what exactly their political beliefs are.
He's like, I'm just a neutral centrist.
Right. This guy always does this. This is like his thing, is that he pretends that he's just like, I'm just a neutral arbiter of trying to understand art, and completely pretends like he doesn't have this this very obvious political bias that's just dripping into all of his content and his entire world structure and everything that he's saying.
Well, people generally can't detect their own political bias, so maybe he's just in that camp.
Well, no, like people don't detect their bias in terms of like they think, oh, whatever I am saying or believing is like objectively true, but they know if they're like on the left or the right. They know if they're a socialist or a Democrat, or if they know if they're a fascist or a Nazi or Republican. Like they know where, like generally they know where they are. So he's pretending that he like is just above it all. I'm just looking at things from some sort of like objectively neutral position.
He's doing the Adam ruins everything guy thing.
Yes. And look, before we watch this video here, look, this is a minute 30 video that we did watch before, but I just want to kind of poison the well a little bit. Okay.
I remember this. He fucking carried water for Hassan.
Right. This was his response to the Hassan dog shocking thing. And it's very deceptive because, again, it's not just like, oh, Hassan didn't shock his dog. Instead he sets up this narrative. And this is a very common propaganda technique that has been written about and discussed very often. The USSR used to use this a lot back in the day. Russia's still using it, where the technique is they're going to hit you with so much contradictory information that you can't determine what is true anymore, so that you just kind of throw your hands up in the air and you shrug and you say, well, I guess I just don't care. Like, I can't figure it out, so I'm just not going to focus on it. That is a technique. Know. Exactly. Who can know? So that is a technique that he's employing very directly in the Hassan dog shocking situation.
Hey, did you hear? What? Infamous radical extremist and charlatan Hassan Piker electrocuted his dog while streaming live to his thousands of brainwashed fans. Seriously? What the hell? Yeah, he reached off screen for like a button or something, and then his dog yelled. That's terrible. Damn. Yeah. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, why? Hey, did you hear? Beloved celebrity and social democrat content creator Hassanabi refuted the claims that he shocked his dog. Wait, I thought he did, though. That was a mass smear campaign. He showed the actual collar he uses, and it doesn't shock dogs, apparently. Okay, well, I'm glad he didn't do that, then. Yeah. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Wait, political opportunist.
Classic both sidesism here.
I know.
When he's clearly guilty. Clearly guilty.
Listen, I just
want
to
teach Manson. We need to both sides him a bit here.
Remember teach the controversy? I just want to teach the controversy.
Oh, yeah, exactly. How do you guys feel about teach the controversy when it comes to creationism in public schools?
Yeah, right. Like, is there really evidence for both sides? I don't know. Let's just teach both of them.
What about homosexuality being a mental illness? Let's just teach the controversy, okay? Let's discuss both sides.
Right. Especially when this is supposed to this is a YouTube channel where he will he's supposed to analyze things, right?
Yeah.
And like, okay, well, the analysis is like, who can say, right?
People have said that they liked his content before he started injecting his brain dead political takes. And now they're
Yes.
like, oh my God.
Yes.
Sooner or later, everyone is forced to inject their brain dead political takes on the left, I guess. Otherwise, you're not a good person.
It's really sad because I feel like there's a lot of channels like that where you're like, oh, you're watching them. It's not really for political content, it's for something else.
Yeah.
And then very slowly you start to see like their weird political takes creep and you're like, wait, no, what's happening? No.
Yeah, they ruin it. They ruin the magic. That is
Dan Conman, Hassan Piker actually did shock his dog. There's new evidence. Any updates?
Okay, if you're just listening, it said day 10,000 on screen, right? So it's
right.
like, oh,
yeah.
This is going on for so long. By the way, this came out like a week, I think, into this controversy when this video came out.
Yeah, and it's so obvious he's sucking up to Hassan for views. That's exactly what's going on here.
Oh yeah, no, Hassan watched this video on his stream and was laughing the whole time.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
that's how this guy has so many subscribers. Man carrying water for other YouTubers.
Any updates? Several. The idea of a person known as Hassan Piker is possibly, though without certainty, using maladaptive methods of animal training. However, the subject has hit national attention, and at this point, the nature of truth is highly unknown. I'm not following. Thousands of reports, videos, deep dives, and investigations have churned up seemingly contradictory information. The incident, as it shall forthwith be known, has a...
That's the whole point.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sort through the information to find out what's true, right?
This guy should have been a lobbyist for the tobacco industry.
He looks kind of like one too, actually, from like the 80s. Smoking's just cool, guys. Like, come on. There's so much scientific evidence. Who can really say the truth about smoking, right?
Yeah, of course.
Attained a status only comparable to crisis events. Crisis? A comic book event wherein timelines are reset, organized, and or restructured for continuity. Did he shock his dog or not? Factions of political thought have shifted. The reality through which we previously measured scientific phenomena has broken down. It's become clear that all that can be unknown can never be unknown, and vice versa. What do you think happened? I don't know. Is this just how the internet works now? Yeah. Great.
You never know.
You can't possibly know. What does woke even mean?
What? I don't even know. Doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, I could watch a person's video and see what they say, but no, who knows? Like with the Hassan dog things, there was no contradictory evidence. The only contradictory thing was Hassan said that he didn't do it. That was it. There was no contradictory evidence at any situation that was ever provided by anyone beyond Hassan's statement that he didn't do it. That was it.
Right.
Even the statements by his friends, like Kitty Cinderella, made him seem more guilty. It contradicted Hassan's own statement.
Are you saying that presenting the shock collar with electrical tape over the removed pins was evidence against Hassan? Is that what
I am saying? That yes,
implying?
I'm saying that Hassan going, all right, guys, you ready? Are you ready? Ready? Here you go, and then flashing it like in like a second, like real quick. Before ducking it away, like no, that actually makes him look more guilty, not less guilty.
There wasn't really any evidence in favor of Hassan.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Only manufactured evidence,
Yep.
which you should be able to see right through.
If you like to read books, then you're probably aware that a lot of them aren't good. I find that many readers like me are rarely interested in the hot new releases hitting shelves these days. I'm far more likely to find a dead writer I love and explore their backlog of greatest hits than venture into recent releases and award winners. There's gotta be a reason for that, right? About 2 months ago, YouTuber Jumi Kim posted a video titled Why I Hate Most Contemporary Novels. I was immediately drawn to watching this. Great, straightforward title, right? And I'm always looking for a smart person's validation for why I just don't seek out a ton of...
I'm sure that he didn't see the thumbnail. Yeah, it says woke crap on it, and that didn't have any impact on his decision to click this video, right?
I was going to say the same thing. You know, he saw that. See that little word woke there? He was like, oh my God.
Right.
Again, I smell rage bait.
The dishonesty. He's like, oh, I
thought this video was for me.
Innocently wandering around the internet YouTube forest. And all of a sudden the YouTube algorithm was like, here, sir, would you like to try this meal? And I was like, I would love to. And then I bit into it and there was shit inside and I had no idea.
Contemporary fiction. I'm going to focus mostly on this video because although she has a relatively small channel at around 140,000 views, this video is resonating with a lot of people and is one of many examples of this sentiment cropping up across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And this video showcases many arguments I find compelling and a few arguments that are especially very bad. This should go without saying, but anyone compelled
Look, he just asserts it. These are horrible arguments. Bad arguments.
Well,
Bad.
he's gonna explain it to us, I'm
I
sure.
know. Hopefully.
to send hateful messages or harassment to this person is horrible. Don't do that. Jumi Kim has a presence
Don't send hateful messages to Jumi.
on Twitter and has made some other YouTube videos that I'm not really going to get into. I want to just focus on this one video. The video starts off really strong.
In this video, I'm going to tell you why I hate most novels today. I'm not saying I hate all of them, but if you go to the bookstore and you look at the books that they're promoting, you know how usually there are books that are out on tables because they're new or they're the ones being talked about or they won awards. If you were to randomly sample some of the books being promoted, chances are most of them will suck.
I like that she mentions this because I can relate to that, right? I often see a table of new fiction displayed at every bookstore and think, you know, how good can these books actually be? In all likelihood, the majority of these books represent whatever the publishing industry has gambled on to most actively promote, books that have congealed into a perfectly moderated crust of literary prestige and middle-brow entertainment. Books that aren't all...
Now, it's interesting because he says this right in the beginning, and then he's going to contradict that throughout the rest of the video, because what you should take away from that, which is what he just said there, is completely true. Like what the bookstore is going to put out right in the front is going to be the thing that they think obviously is going to be like the hot seller, right? The thing that they're going to try to push on
The
everyone.
tabloid nonsense.
Right. So whatever that is indicative of how at least the publishing industry and the book industry feels about where the audience is. So you can, if all those books have similar ideas or similar themes, that is telling you something important, some important information about society. And he would talk about
this is what
that,
people want.
or at least what they think people want. Like if he walked in the bookstore and he saw that all the tables were just like, the left is evil, Trump is the great savior, or something like books. Like that's every book like on the table. Whenever he walks into, one of the bookstores,
definitely.
He would bring it up and he would talk about like how somehow this means some sort of shift of society. But instead, when all the books have like weird, hyper progressive, woke messaging shoved into them, the book's either about that or just has it randomly shoved into it. He's going to play this game where like, what? That doesn't mean anything. Why even bring this up? Why even talk about this?
Yeah, there are Christian bookstores, right? There are books by Christians for Christians, right? We recognize that. If that was all the bookstores, we'd think, something is happening here, right?
Yeah, right.
What
right.
exactly is going on? We can understand that. I'm skeptical he can actually understand that. I think he would make the argument that this is the way society is.
Right.
Well,
right.
the people complaining about this are the people who see society a little more rounded than just the progressive ideology shoved in their face, which is what she complains about in the original video. So
all that challenging, but might make for a decent summer read. At least this is the impression I get. Jumi goes on to say,
so I'm not talking about the books that everyone expects to be bad, like stuff that everyone understands to be cheap thrillers or romances or whatever. Everyone knows they're purely for entertainment.
Some of the most snobbish highbrow readers of fiction I know acknowledge that some of the best fiction comes from genre categories. To say books everyone expects to be bad like cheap thrillers and romances, you're already, in my opinion, playing into reductive marketing terms. Are the works of Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler just cheap thrillers? Is Lonesome Dove a book everyone expects to be bad? Some of the most impressive writers today work in genre fiction. S.A. Cosby, Jordan Harper, Ted Chiang. It seems to me that one of the positive changes in publishing, of which there are very few, is that genre is not as separate from the realm of highbrow fiction as it used to be. Okay, well, let's go along with the video's premise.
My issue is with the books that win the Pulitzer Prizes or are the finalists for the National Book Award.
The award winners, the book club picks.
Because they're supposed to be more highfalutin.
So are there genre books in the winning the Pulitzer these days?
Probably. I don't know. It's weird. It's like a weird criticism for him to make. It's not weird. I understand. He's like, it's like
nitpicking.
He's already in nitpicking debate mode because like when what she said, we all understand what she meant, that there's going to be like,
these are the prize winners. These are the ones that
right.
society is praising, that everyone should read.
She's trying to make a point like, okay, I'm not going to walk into a bookstore and complain about like whatever the equivalent of Twilight is today, like Morning Glory Milking Farm. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that there's a lot of slop out there that is just to appeal to like the slop market. I'm not talking about those books. We all understand what she's saying, but then he's like, well, ma'am, how dare you? What are you talking about?
They're the literary books.
Highfalutin books, she says.
They are terrible in a particular...
What's wrong with that? Why would you pause to insert that? Well, no, he's like insulting. He's insulting the term. He's like, he says it like very like, he said highfalutin. It's like, yeah, I just want, I don't know what he means when he says highfalutin, why it's a problem.
Way that I think is unique to our times.
Great. So at this point, we're not only going to look at what is making these books worse, but what is making society worse. I'm ready to learn something new. Let's stop beating around the bush and get to the heart of the matter. What is going on?
At some point, I realized that
her message in the video is ideological conformity is making society worse. So I'd really like to see him make an argument how ideological conformity is good. Yes. I don't see how this is what is such a contradiction on the left, right? They're the ones that are anti-establishment, right? But they're all fucking conformists, every single one of them. All they want is political correctness and conformity.
Yep.
Her whole video is anti-conformity. But here he is, conform or I'll make fun of you on the internet.
The big part, I think, of the dishonesty of his video here, besides him like pretending he doesn't understand stuff, is he's going to try to like flip that, like, well, all she wants is for everything to be right wing. And like the whole point of her video is like, no, it's because everything is like one political ideology.
Yeah,
and if it's supposed to be about expanding your mind and your horizons, there needs to be some sort of variety to those things. But you know, he's going to pretend like he doesn't understand this or that it's the opposite or something.
She obviously understands the good faith interpretation of all the various political affiliations, and he doesn't. It has to be simplified for his woke mind.
Well, I mean, also just the tone of the two videos is so interesting because like when she's talking, I mean, she's talking, and it feels like she's talking in a more like earnest, sincere way about how she feels. And he has this like smug, condescending tone in everything like he's talking about, which is, I mean, that's in all his videos. He always has this like, this morally superior, smug, condescending, like I'm making fun of you, but I'm pretending I'm not making fun of you tone whenever he talks.
If it works, right?
That whenever I walked into a bookstore and picked up one of the books that they were promoting, it kind of seemed like every other book was some kind of LGBTQ book or had some themes of racism or misogyny or something like that. For example, I did a quick check on the last 6 years of the National Book Award, so going back to 2000. 5 out of the 6 were explicitly woke themed.
I wouldn't have picked this video to talk about if it didn't also include some other claims about literature today, if it didn't in some other ways try to expand on different arguments, which we'll explore in a bit. But unfortunately, about half of the video's runtime complains about wokeness in books. And like, if you're going to do that, you need to get a little bit into like what you think wokeness is. It's such a widespread and vague term. Like, you've got to be specific. At this point, you're losing.
She literally just said that there are books that have themes about LGBTQ issues, misogyny, and racism.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
And now he's going to pretend. This is why your tweet was so right. He's going to pretend like, I don't know what does she mean when she says, well, I don't know what she means. That's why I would always ask this question. This is a great question to ask if you interact with someone like this, where you say, okay, do you think that politics on the left have changed from before 2014? Okay. Do you think that before 2014, the left seemed different than they do now? Has there been a shift in the political, view of the left, especially the left online, right? And then they actually they try to weasel out of it. Then they actually have to try to, answer the question, because every person on the internet.com, right? We're not talking about some boomer normie. Every person like this who's in this space knows 100% exactly what the change was. They know that there's a dramatic change to things being a lot more woke, a lot more progressive, a lot more socialist, a lot more leftist. They all know this. And yet they want to play, some of them want to play this fucking game where they're just going to sit here and pretend like they don't understand what's going on.
Well, and it's a lot about subversively jamming that messaging into media and then going, what are you talking about?
Right.
They recognize it when conservatives do it, right? Obviously, teach the controversy, which we talked about earlier, which was conservatives' ploy to get creationism back into the classroom. Everyone knew what was going on there. They're doing the exact same thing and acting the exact same way conservatives around that time acted. Like, what? We just want to teach the controversy. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah. It's so, please stop. If you want to make the argument that we need to have LGBT representation in media because we need to brainwash society into accepting gay people as normal and that we shouldn't have homophobia in anyone homophobia should be punished by death. Make that argument. Go ahead. But this subversive shit, we're just going to brainwash everyone and pretend it's not happening. That drives me insane.
Yeah.
Fucking make the argument. Don't try to be subversive about it. Don't try to be sneaky. Okay?
Right.
Just make your fucking argument. They want to trick people into going along with them. It's lame. What we need to talk about what woke is. Well, woke is you thinking racism, sexism, and homophobia are the worst problems that exist in society today, and that we have to subversively, sneakily deceive people into enjoying this media so that they will not have those feelings anymore, and will save the world through that process. That's what you're doing. It's very clear. She doesn't like it. People don't like to be manipulated. So stop doing it.
Losing a huge portion of your audience, right? People are long familiar with the anti-woke movie critics, the anti-woke game reviewers, people who freak out when a beloved female character wears shorts. I'm saying...
Look, and he does the straw man, the total straw man. He's like, look, we need to do this thing because they get mad when a woman is a protagonist in a movie. Don't you know how sexist they are?
It's the classic, it's not happening, it's happening, but it's good.
The Narcissist's Prayer by Dana Craig. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, well, it's not that big a deal. And if it is, well, it's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it.
Right. Yeah. What's going on here?
Saying that if you're starting your 37-minute video about the decline of contemporary literature with this, it's not looking promising unless you make some original claims and back it up with great examples. Fortunately for us, she does offer some examples of bad woke books.
For example, I took this picture at a bookstore, and this is the first table you see when you walk in, and just very quickly looked up a description of each book and noted which were either gay or trans or mentioned things like misogyny or white guilt or something like that in the description of the book. So I'm talking either on the back of the book or the inside flap cover for hardcovers.
Surely this can't be her only means of figuring out whether a book is woke or not, right? You just read the description and figure out if it is gay or trans. I mean, how many gay characters does it need to have before it becomes a gay book? And because it's gay or trans or mentions misogyny or white guilt, does that automatically make them bad?
I don't care per se.
I like it's like the hedging. It's like, oh, well, you know, they're not going to be woke. And then it's like, well, but what if they are? I mean, is that bad if it has these themes anyway?
Exactly.
It's like, well, that's her fucking point. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
She does go on in the video to talk explicitly about all this stuff, about how all the characters come from a politically correct perspective, and that the characters are very much set up as caricatures of good and evil, and all the good people are communists and all the bad people are conservatives.
Yeah. The two books that she talks the most in depth about, which is, you know, the part we can watch the clip about, he kind of cuts it up and skips over it so that you don't know that she's like talking about in depth about this author.
Yeah.
After he's complained that she's not doing it in depth, which by the like at the most you'd be like, oh, well, you know, reading a summary or reading the back of the book or the inside flap, that's not enough to really judge the book, right? You could try to make that argument. And the counter argument I make is that could be somewhat true, but those are the things that the author and the publisher work on to put on the book to get you to buy it.
Yes.
So if they're intentionally putting a bunch of woke messaging into the summaries, into the flap and all this other stuff, even if that's not really what the book about, let's say it's a total like bait and switch, that shows you how like bizarrely fucked up the publishing company is and how the audience that is reading is if they feel like this is the sort of messaging they have to use to get people to buy these books in the first place.
If a particular book is about trans or gay or misogyny or whatever. And I'm not saying those novels shouldn't exist. I have nothing against those kinds of books existing. And I'm not saying that they're all bad or anything like that. It's fine for gay stories or whatever to be told.
Oh, thank God. See, it's okay for gay stories or whatever to be told. James Baldwin, you're safe. You're good, man.
But I'm saying that they seem...
I mean, I feel like she's being very fair in her video. She's not saying, you know, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you know, fire and brimstone, all this is like degeneracy that's poisoning our society and it must be purged and blah, blah, blah. And she's not even saying that. She's just like, yeah, this stuff is fine to exist. I just want there to be variety, right? Yeah. I want there to be other books. It's weird to me that all the books that are recommended that are winning the awards, they all seem to be about the same kind of, you know, constellation of beliefs and values. And then he's like condescending, like, oh, well, she said like whatever. How dare she diminish the other letters on the LGBTQ plus A XYZ alphabet?
It's so weird that she wants hetero representation in literature. What is she thinking?
Yeah, what a homophobe.
To constitute a much higher percentage of contemporary literature than what you'd expect given the actual gay or trans population. And it seems like they're being pushed on us.
All right, so this is a pretty significant claim that these gay books are being pushed on us. You know, it's a claim you see conservatives saying about woke themes in virtually all media. The woke books are being pushed on us at a table of Barnes & Noble.
I looked up the books here, and here's what I found.
So she goes through a sampling of the books that she saw at some table at Barnes & Noble. She doesn't include what the table is called or what its theme is, or, I mean, for all we know, it says super woke books, and at that point, you only have yourself to blame for, you know, perusing that table. But just based on what's offered here, they're all hardcovers. I assume it's just...
Aren't they all super woke books? Isn't that the point of the video? It's like any table out at Barnes & Noble is super woke books. Without the sign. See, that's false advertising is what she's saying.
General new fiction. So these are the books she picks out as examples of woke books.
This one, the silver book, is at once a queer love story and a noirish thriller. This is according to its own description.
So I looked this one up. Yes, the phrase is used in the description on Amazon. It also says, art, power, desire, and illusion collide in a hypnotic new novel from Olivia Lang, set in the months leading up to the murder of Pier Paolo Pasolini in 1975. So it's historical fiction about the Italian film industry that sounds really interesting. Notice how Jumi dismisses it as woke and therefore not worth reading simply because the description calls it a queer love story. I think what she's trying to do in this segment is bombard you with icky woke words that, for a certain type of viewer who only sees the term queer love story as inherently bad, will make you think there's some agenda being pushed by big woke book. Has Jumi read any of these books? No.
So did you catch?
Lie.
Yeah, he literally played the clip of her saying she doesn't have a problem with these books existing, and she's not even saying that they're necessarily bad. It's just that they're all like thematically about the same thing, or they all have the same political thought behind them. And then it's so funny. He literally plays the clip of her saying that, and then he just changes her words in front of the audience. It's like, she's saying all these books are bad because it's got the gays in it, which is the exact opposite of what she said.
Right. And then he says she hasn't read any of these books, which she goes in depth on 2 or 3 of the books that she has obviously read.
And then again, this is the classic, it's not happening, it's happening, but it's okay. Like, are these books really woke? It's like, well, you know, it says it's literally about a queer love story in the 70s. I mean, why is that a problem? Like, what are we talking about here? What's happening here? I like when you ask Google, the little AI pops up and it says okay, not only does it say that is a grounded queer love story, right? That is the tagline of the book, a grounded queer love story. So we're supposed to pretend that like that's not going to be, you know, woke. The genre,
well, it might not even be gay. Does he not know queer, that straight people can be queer?
Well, maybe he saw, because when you Google it, the genre is literally gay fiction. The genre of the book is gay fiction.
I don't mind people reading gay fiction.
I don't either, but like that makes your point, doesn't it?
Well, the argument in the video, this is books by believers for believers, and that they're bad because they're in this insular type community. So he hasn't really argued against that.
No, but that's what's the key part that's important. Her video is, it's bad that they're all about the same political ideology. Not that any of the individual books, well, the ones she does talk about, ones that she thinks are bad, but not that like as a whole. She's not saying every individual book is bad, but he's going to pretend like that's what she's saying. Also, the little Google AI says that one of the key themes in the book is art versus fascism. So we have
I knew it was. As soon as they were talking about the murder in France, I was like, okay,
Italy.
We know where this is going. Oh,
it's Italy. Italy in the 70s. The reemergence of fascism in Italy, 70s. The gay fiction, you know, thriller, of course.
There you go.
She's simply going off of the marketing, and it shows what kind of viewer she expects to have watching this video, one who sees Stag Dance push the limits of trans writing as inherently negative again.
Then there's this one called Stag Dance. Again, according to its own description, it pushes the quote, limits of trans writing.
Later on in this video, Jumi complains about writers who preach only one perspective, who moralize and expect the reader to applaud them simply for saying the right things. On this point, I completely agree. But Tori Peters is a hilarious author to complain about in this regard. I haven't read Stag Dance, but I read Detransition Baby, and it's a very thorny, very messy book about trans characters behaving badly, making mistakes. I've seen Tori Peters get criticized for writing about trans people in ways that aren't always flattering because she writes about trans people as people. She writes great characters, trans or otherwise. And just because she's a trans writer doesn't mean she can't write perceptibly about the human experience. But let's dismiss Stag Dance entirely because the description says it pushes the limits of trans writing, just as we will dismiss these other books.
This one,
All of that is just his opinion on the book. None of that description of the book would counteract her argument that those people can't really write a well-rounded world because they're in a political bubble. Yeah.
Right. And it even brings up that she's saying that this is all just like very one-sided, but then he just, he's just like, well, but this one author, this other book, I mean, I think she gave a more rounded take on these very specifically woke progressive issues.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Exactly.
That's wonderful, I guess. I mean, do you think that you think if this author was coming out and she made like a very, or he, I don't know if he, she, whoever this person is, made some like very anti woke progressive book, the audiences would accept it, or
of course
people
not.
like they're gonna not have like a complete like shit fit meltdown and riot about this stuff? You think it's gonna be put front and center at the bookstore?
That's part of it, because if the author has the wrong opinion or ends up making someone with the wrong opinion seem relatable.
And this is what the Wikipedia says about this book, Stag Dance. Okay. It looks like it's a series consisting of 3 short stories that I guess all take place in an apocalyptic near future Seattle where a pandemic renders humans unable to produce sex hormones. The Chaser, a boy questions his sexuality as he embarks on an ill-fated relationship with his femme boarding school roommate. So that's a male who presents female. Okay.
So this is a pandemic that turns everyone non-binary?
Yes.
Is that the premise?
Maybe that's the premise.
Wow.
Stag Dance. Babe Bunyan, a large, unattractive lumberjack, decides to attend his winter camp's stag dance as a woman, placing him in a rivalry with the younger, more feminine. So I don't know if that's an actual woman or another man pretending to be a woman.
Wow.
And then the last one, The Masker.
This is the book that's not woke?
This is the non-woke book. The Masker. While attending a Las Vegas trans feminine gathering, Chris is forced to confront her own identity when others at the event turn on a guest wearing a full-body silicone woman suit.
Wow.
What is happening here?
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, who hasn't been to a party with
a
guy wearing a woman suit?
Let me read the plot for this detransition baby. That's when he was talking about, right? He said was like
that he read, yeah.
Yeah. The main characters are Reese, a trans woman and former partner of Amy. Amy, who detransitioned to live as a man and became Amez, and Katrina, a Chinese Jewish cis woman who is currently Amy's boss and current lover. All 3 are in their 30s and live in Brooklyn. After the end of the relationship, Reese and Amez have been estranged because Amez's decision to transition 3 years ago. Katrina discovers that she is pregnant with Amez's child, though Amez was misguided by his doctor, who conveyed Amez would be sterile because of his time on hormone replacement therapy. Well, look, see, it's a book where like it doesn't matter if you detransition, you can still have a kid.
Right.
Amez reveals to Katrina that he spent 6 years living as an out trans woman before deciding to socially detransition due to the associated risk of transphobia. Wow, this sounds really not woke to me. Someone who was trans and then detransitioned because of social pressure and fear of transphobia. Interesting.
Right.
In particular, the increased risk of violence. Although he is certain he is not a man, he is still unsure of his gender identity. Because of his complicated relationship with his gender, Amez is hesitant to accept the role of a father to a child in a heterotypical family because of the label's social connotations of masculinity. Oh my God. If you're a human being on this earth and you're going to have a child and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. If I'm a father or a mother, I'm going to have to be like dealing with society's connotations of masculinity and femininity. Like what is wrong with you? Just be a fucking parent. You're already fucked at that point. Like you're just fucked. Your brain is like, you're completely in the completely wrong headspace. What the fuck is happening at this point? That's just even a concern to you. Amez reconstructs with Reese, who long wanted to mother a child of her own, believing the 3 of them could form an unconventional family to raise the baby.
They're in
together.
A polycule.
They're going to be a polycule. So this is a very non-woke book that he's talking about here. Reese grapples with the same self-destructive coping mechanism that soured her old relationship with Amy, including sex with married men and chase.
This is
Oh,
the book
this-
that he actually liked.
Yeah,
right?
this sounds terrible. While Amos tries to navigate life as a man again, Katrina attempts to adjust to a different understanding of gender and questions her own queerness, but intends to get an abortion if she cannot be sure she will have a supportive system. Wow. The three question their identities, their relationships with each other, and if they can form a stable family. The book
Yeah.
is separated into sections that moves in time from years before the conception of Katrina's child to weeks after conception, well, so she didn't get an abortion, and explore both the nature of Reese and Amy's relationship and the negotiation of a possible family dynamic for the trio.
This book sounds fascinating.
You know, it's funny because I just opened the Wikipedia page to this book. I didn't actually read it myself before I read it out loud. I had no idea what I was going to read. I had no idea. Maybe I was going to be proven completely wrong. He was going to be proven completely right, but completely just talking out of his ass about this stuff.
This doesn't sound like a woke book to you.
It sounds like one of the most woke books I've
I
ever
was going to
heard.
say, there's wokeness in movies here and there, but this is like concentrated wokeness.
If you read the description, you'll quickly realize it's about a gay guy who also happens to have a homophobic brother. This one, Sweet Fury, a quote, bold critique of Americans' deep-rooted misogyny. This one mentions in its description that one of the themes is the way that whiteness and power protect their own. This one, it's about 5 Black women, and I don't think that in itself is something that makes a book woke per se, but it did mention in its inside flap cover that one of the characters gets famous for calling out her employer for, quote, plans to whitewash fraught history.
I find it funny that she dismisses the book about a gay guy with a homophobic brother, but clarifies there's nothing wrong with a book about 5 Black women. I mean, good, but this is what I mean. Like,
Again, just so dishonest to
Ignores the
pretend like
point. Yeah.
yeah, like he just keeps pretending like he doesn't understand what she's saying. That's his only technique. I just don't understand what she's saying. If she's just being racist and sexist, I guess, kind of, maybe. How dare she criticize these books that I said weren't woke, but actually sound super fucking mega woke when you read the summary of the book.
You're not going to go anywhere in the literary world unless you go fully woke, though.
Well, that's the
You
thing.
have
'Cause
no chance of getting published whatsoever.
right. And that's the real subject. Because, like, yeah, I'm sure some of these authors are actually personally woke and they're going to shove their political ideology and stuff. But I'm sure a lot of them, they don't really care. They just want to write a book. And the publisher's like, listen, or the agent they have is like, listen, you have to like shove in this political nonsense in your book if you want it to get picked up.
Yeah.
what the hell
that's
do you
what it's
mean
all
by
about.
wokeness? Is it just stuff that makes you uncomfortable? How is a book about trans writing more or less woke than a book about a gay guy or 5 Black women? By the way, she is pointing to the wrong book.
I just like reads off these like summaries like, oh, it's about, America confronting its white racism. It's about men confronting their misogyny. He's like, what is wokeness, guys? Does anyone even know? I mean, I don't know.
It's a
I don't
mystery.
know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery what anyone's talking about.
Here, she actually read the description for The Wilderness, and the book description mentions in a list of character introductions, Monique, a librarian and aspiring blogger, finds unexpected online fame after calling out the university where she works for its plans to whitewash fraught history. Who's to say there is no deeper exploration of this subject? Why assume the writer is preaching or pushing some kind of woke agenda? This sets up a recurring pattern.
Who's to say that maybe the Black lady that calls out her white employer for being racist and whitewashing history, maybe the book is saying that it was wrong for the Black woman to do that. Did you ever consider that?
In this video in which Jumi rails against preachy literature that
Now, and again, this guy who's criticizing her for not doing enough research, he doesn't like do any research to find out that's actually the case. Because
He's like, how do you know?
right.
We could never know.
Because he's probably fairly confident that if he did actually look into it, that the book would not
wouldn't
be
end well.
criticizing
Yeah.
that topic whatsoever. I mean, and I looked into this book a little bit. At least that part where she's criticizing the woman, it seems to be from the description I read of the specific incident that it's completely like she was wronged. Like she was right to call it out.
expects you to agree with it. Something I also do not like. Yet at the same time, she can't imagine a writer with left-leaning politics making art that isn't preaching their politics. She goes on to say about The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong.
There were other books that you could categorize as woke because, for example, this one does have a gay protagonist, and on Amazon it's listed as a #1 bestseller in LGBTQ plus literature, I guess because the author is gay or queer or something, but I'm not even going to count this one as woke just because it doesn't sound like the gay thing is a big factor in the book.
Okay. Who determines that? And is this not just one of the funniest examples you could use in a book about the fall of contemporary literature?
He's so bad faith because even how she's like, listen, just because the main character is gay and just because it's listed as like gay fiction or whatever,
Because the author is gay.
Right. Yeah. Like that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be some political leaning to the book. Like it could just be that the character is gay and that doesn't really push some sort of woke progressive like political message. It just happens to have a gay character, right? Maybe it's written from a more like, well, I can't say colorblind, sex blind, gender blind, perspective of just like, well, it's just a gay character who just happens to be doing something, right? It's like, it's very obvious that's what she means. And he's like, oh, who are you? What are you talking about? You're making no sense, lady.
He gets it. This is all performative ignorance.
Yeah.
Ocean Vuong is beloved by many, yes, but also despised for his type of prose. Every other day on Twitter, he sparks discourse about his style of writing. I would love for a video to dissect what works or doesn't work about Vuong's writing and what it says about contemporary literature in general. But instead, we're here talking about how this doesn't count as woke because it doesn't sound like the gay thing is such a big factor in the book.
I'm just going to stop here because we already have a lot on this table here where the woke part is pretty front and center of the book.
I'm not going to stop there because I got curious about what she excluded here. Let's look at the scary woke table again, shall we? You might notice a new book by legendary screenwriter and filmmaker, director of Lone Star and 8 Men Out, John Sayles, front and center. To Save the Man is historical fiction in the vein of Never Let Me Go and Killers of the Flower Moon. That sounds incredibly cool. What about One of Us by Dan?
So I looked up the little blurb for this book since it's very interesting that a man carrying water here, that a woke progressive mustache here, he left out something that's very prominent when you read the summary of this book online.
Uh-oh.
The summary of To Save Man is, one of America's greatest storytellers sheds light on an American tragedy, the Wounded Knee Massacre and the cultural genocide experienced by the Native American children at Carsel's Indian Industrial School. You have to ask yourself, woke progressive mustache, why would you have intentionally left that out of your video?
Because it sounds woke, and he obviously knows what woke is if he intentionally left it out.
Exactly, because like if you really didn't understand what woke is, you would have read that, and you wouldn't have known that you just made your point, right? Because you don't know what woke is.
Oh, that's so funny.
Cheon, a sort of upmarket horror novel. What about Jonathan Letham's new book?
Oh, okay. So here's another one. One of Us. Okay, This is the blurb. One of Us by Elizabeth Day is a satirical thriller about the British elite, focusing on the mysterious death of Fliss Fitzmaurice in Bali, which exposes the hypocrisy and buried scandals of her powerful family, particularly her brother Ben's political ambition. The novel explores themes of class, privilege, and the power through multiple perspectives. Again, why did you not include that?
Sounds like the right opinion.
Right, very interesting. Themes of class and privilege and power. Now, why would you have left that out in your description? Fascinating.
Book of short stories. He's the author of Motherless Brooklyn. There is a range of offerings here, and I went a step further. I actually read one of these woke books based on Jumi's recommendation. Thank you. I read the one about the way that whiteness and power protect.
Oh, and let me just read.
Figures.
This was the blurb for the
about whiteness.
I know, of course. This was the theme. This was the blurb, or this is what a reviewer left for that book, the One of Us book. The thinking person's thriller, a Trojan horse of a book, part Highsmith, part Waugh, that hides within its superbly gripping plot a gimlet-eyed interrogation of class, privilege, and power.
A Trojan horse. Huh?
Yeah, a Trojan. That's how they describe it.
Was a Trojan horse deceptive?
No, Adam. The Trojan horse was very honest, obviously, right?
Yeah. Just invite us into your city. Just invite our ideology into your brain.
Range of offerings here. And I went a step further. I actually read one of these woke books based on Jumi's recommendation. Thank you. I read the one about the way that whiteness and power protect their own. The book is called Greenwich, and it's Kate Broad's debut novel. Was it a good book? It's all right. It kind of hooks you with like a crime mystery and then drags you along a coming of age story with a girl who's like immersed in the wealthy world of her aunt and uncle. The prose is fine, mostly functional, and at times reads like
mostly functional.
He's like, this book sucked, but I gotta be a little nice because it's about fighting whiteness, so you gotta be careful.
He doesn't want to make her point too much.
Yes.
A YA novel because our protagonist is pretty young. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's what you'd expect to see a big celebrity announce as their book club pick. It'd make a decent beach read. This brings me to my own critique of what Jumi calls highbrow literature.
So, but wait a minute. He's like, I read this book, and he's supposed to tell us, like, was it actually woke or not? Was she wrong? He doesn't say.
Yeah. He totally altogether.
He totally dodges the whole thing.
Why does he do that, Sitch? Why?
Because if you ask Google what are the themes of the book, this is what it tells you. Okay, Kate Braugh's literary suspense novel Greenwich follows a young woman spending a pivotal summer in affluent Connecticut enclave. The story is a deep dive into moral ambiguity. The themes are wealth, privilege, and whiteness. The story heavily examines how the shield of privilege protects certain characters while punishing outsiders. It explores the entitlement and class struggle that infiltrate personal relationships, particularly in contrast between the wealthy family and their live-in nanny. Oh, here's the second theme: silence and complicity. The novel questions the morality of staying silent when the truth threatens the status quo. Oh, fascinating. Third theme: coming of age and girl power. Wow. I don't know, man. Guys, is this going to be a woke book? You guys tell me. I don't know what woke is. I can't tell. I cannot tell for the life of me. Just like Hassan shocking his dog. Who can say?
This stuff, the stuff on this table, is not highbrow literature. This is by and large upmarket fiction, aka book club fiction. And look, these are all just marketing terms. When you look at the broad group of people still buying and reading new releases in 2026, a smaller chunk are reading fiction, and an even smaller group of that are reading these kinds of books, mostly women. They're the where the crawdads sing type of readers. The type of books that have mass appeal but aren't too challenging and touch on contemporary topics. Historically, these books get forgotten over time. The ones that stick.
Isn't that important though? Isn't that weird? Like he just said, well, it's funny. He's kind of talking about his, both sides. He's like, oh, not that many people read them, but they have mass appeal, which seems a little contradictory when you say that like that. That's kind of the point. It's like, okay, so either A, this means that the audience, the main audience of books is like completely just indoctrinated with all this woke nonsense, or the publishers and agents
are trying to indoctrinate
think that's what they want, or are trying to intentionally indoctrinate people with all this, nonsensical political ideology.
They definitely are when they heap the accolades onto them, because anyone who's going to read a book is going to, I want to read the popular thing. Look what won all the awards, right?
Exactly.
What's in the big celebrity book club?
And you know that if the exact same trend was happening, but it was with books that had a right-wing political ideology, he'd be the one making the video like, oh, this is so crazy that this is our society is being completely taken over by politics. Can't we just have good books, guys?
For good reason. If publishers are selling these books with explicitly woke terms, that probably means it works for the audience they're trying to reach. Publishing is a business. If publishers could find...
So he just completely changed his argument.
I know.
Now he's like, oh yeah, all the books are woke, but it's because that's what sells, bitch.
I mean, no one knows what wokeness is, but it sells.
It is very unfortunate that you have to be this way to have any shot at making it as a writer.
The way to sell the next big upmarket anti-woke book club book? You know they would, but it doesn't make sense to do that. The people following the Read with Jenna book club are not the same people seeking conservative fiction. When I go to my local Barnes & Noble, I see tables like this, recommending the next Where the Crawdads Sing. I also see a huge end cap with 50 books about Charlie Kirk and how America is dying. Publishers just want to sell books. There's not a huge crossover between people who want to read The Emperor of Gladness and who also want to read True Allegiance.
Yeah, but see, this is dishonest. Like he could very easily, like if he wanted to actually say like, look, what this woman is saying is incorrect or wrong, or maybe just based on wherever she lives. All he would have to do, if what he's saying is true, is he could walk into his local bookstore, like he said he did, and just take a picture and be like, look, I walked right into my local Barnes & Nobles, and right out the front, you got the Ben Shapiro books and the Charlie Kirk, books right in the front of the bookstore. Okay, so maybe this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. Interestingly, he doesn't do that. Now, I can only speculate why he didn't do that. Who can say for sure?
Look, I bet if I walked in the Barnes & Noble in Los Angeles, they might have those books, but they'd be tucked in the back, like one little shelf.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a political section
books,
in the bookstore somewhere, right? But that's what's weird too, is that like all the conservative books are going to be regulated to the political section, and then you have like in the new fiction, it's all just completely
these are the normal books.
With politics, but it's not considered political.
But it's not in the political section.
Yeah.
Greenwich tries to sketch morally complex characters and explore topical themes. It doesn't always stick the landing. My issue with the book is that you feel the author's anxiety to keep the reader turning the page. Why can't challenging form-breaking fiction become bestsellers? Jumi goes on to look at the last 6 years of National Book Award winners to see which are explicitly woke themed.
For example, I did a quick check on the last 6 years of the National Book Award.
And it turns out 5 of the 6 are explicitly woke themed.
5 out of the 6 were explicitly woke themed.
Did she read the books? Oh, no.
Just based on what the book's description said. I put a summary of my findings here, and you can pause the video to look at that if you want.
So
If she doesn't read all those books, and she doesn't
I
know
know.
what she's talking about.
I don't know.
Of course, he read them all, so he knows
sure.
that they're not woke theme.
No, he also didn't read them, so it's okay.
Of course not. Yeah.
let's see the damage here. How woke are these books? Interior Chinatown, a shattering and darkly comic send-up of racial stereotyping in Hollywood, a deeply personal novel about race, pop culture, immigration. I looked this one up. This seems like a pretty fun, like not really challenging book. Hell of a book, 2021. It's about racism.
It's so funny too, because like he literally criticizes Ben Shapiro for doing this in his One Battle After Another thing. It's like he just says these things, doesn't actually explain them. Okay. Every time he does this, it's for a dishonest purpose, because he looked into the book, and if he could describe it and if he could read a blurb and it didn't sound woke, he would have included it. But he intentionally does it because he knows what woke is, and he knows that it sounds woke. When you read that this book, Interior Chinatown, now again, might be good. I don't fucking know. I don't know anything about it. I didn't read it, but he knows that the book is about an Asian actor who's explicitly talking about being trapped in Asian roles, and that he's constantly being like, misrepresented as the Asian guy. And it's supposed to be about him trying to break out of like the racial stereotype
Typecasting.
Typecasting of being like the Asian guy. Okay. But he won't say that. He won't say that because then it proves your point.
Why doesn't he just make the argument that these books should be about this, and that there's a huge problem in society with racism, sexism, and homophobia, and this is the right tact for the literary industry? Why doesn't he say that? Because
he has to keep pretending. He does it. That's his whole shtick here, is to pretend that it's just, you don't know what you're talking about. That it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. I mean, when it happens, it's fine, but it's not actually happening. So just, little babies, close your eyes, go to sleep, and let
it's not happening.
Let
That's
the
what's the most
indoctrination wash
infuriating
over
part.
you.
That's the infuriating part right there. The
Yes.
deception.
Okay, well, I mean, come on, that's kind of reductive. In the Amazon description, hell of a book is at once about family, love of
You didn't read it? He didn't? Oh my God. Can you believe this guy didn't read the book?
Here he
family,
is.
love of parents and children, art and money. It's also about the nation's reckoning with a tragic police shooting, playing over and over again on the news. This seems like it's dealing with contemporary topics.
Whoa. Slow your roll, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you not finish that sentence? That was on screen for a second. Let's use our powers of pausing here. What it says is it's also about the nation reckoning with a tragic police shooting playing over and over again on the news, period, and with what it can mean to be Black in America. Why did he leave that last sentence out? Mr. Honest Progressive Mustache? Why did you leave man carrying water out that last sentence? How fascinating. Now, obviously, if you were to look into this, which I'm assuming he did and didn't talk about because, again, he's being dishonest. What do you think? If you read the summary and he says it's about a police shooting playing on the news, and then the next sentence is, and what it can mean to be Black in America. Can we use our amazing powers of human deduction to figure out what kind of police shooting that maybe this story is about here?
A white cop shooting a Black man.
Oh my God! A Black man, a Black person.
Man.
A Black person shot by the police? Holy crap. Holy shit. But
That's
of course,
not
he's not going to talk about that. This is what the little Google said. This is the major themes and motifs of the book. Okay. Race and identity in America. The novel is a visceral meditation on what it means to be Black in the United States. It dives into the harsh realities of police brutality, the loss of childhood innocence, and generational trauma. It also features the burden of the Black artist. Through its clever metafiction, the book explores the struggle of minority artists who are often pressured to making their art exclusively about their community struggle rather than simply being allowed to express their universal humanity. Now I actually like that, so maybe it's good, but I actually like that. That's a good theme.
Being forced to be woke. Holy shit, maybe the book is actually good.
See, but if he actually went into it, maybe he could have brought that up. But then if he brought that up, he'd have to admit that he knows what woke means in this context.
About family, love of parents and children, art and money. It's also about the nation's reckoning with a tragic police shooting, playing over and over again.
End sentence. No, I'm not going to read the next one.
On the news. This seems like it's dealing with contemporary topics in a way that is relevant to today. I mean, this seems like a typical upmarket fiction book that would be interesting to people who are interested in this genre.
Why did he even make this video? It's so obvious, like he's just lying, totally lying.
I know, it's so funny.
22 NA. So I guess there's just no wokeness in Rabbit Hutch. Blackouts 2023. Description mentions.
So was that the one she said she didn't know if it was woke or not? Well, I mean,
this is a list that have won book awards.
right. But she said 5 of the 6.
Blackouts 2023. Description mentions queer multiple times. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the point. Now, again, notice he's not pushing back on it whatsoever.
To him, that's not wokeness. That's just reality.
You want to hear what the description is for this book, Blackout, which again, he probably read and then
multiple
didn't include
references to queerness.
Because he didn't want to, because he knows it makes her argument.
I totally don't want to hear it, but why don't you give it to us anyway?
Blackout. The book tells the story of Juan Gay, his actual name. Juan Gay, an old man who is living in an isolated institution known as the Palace. He is visited by the unnamed narrator, known affectionately by the nickname Nenen, who has an interest in the life of Gay. Nenen and Juan met briefly about a decade before when both were institutionalized at a mental hospital. And now Nenen suffers from gaps in his memory due to mental fugues and seeks the advice of Juan, who he feels he can find in. Gay had earlier discovered a copy of the 1941 medical book called Sex Variants, a study of homosexual patterns, and is distraught that the work of Juan Gay, the journalist who conducted the interviews featured in the book, had been co-opted by medical professionals who described homosexuality in a derisive way.
As a mental illness.
Juan, who is nearing his death, tasked the narrator with completing the work of the other guy is a different author name. It wasn't Juan Gay, Jan Gay, with completing the work of Jan Gay, as well as his own work, formulating a new narrative of queer identity and history to pass on to future generations. I'm just so curious why Mr. Progressive Mustache here read that description and decided not to include it in this video.
Because it'd make her point, obviously. And he's deceptive. He doesn't want to let anyone know.
Of course.
But this video is for woke people.
True story. The main character is a high school teacher and, quote, the neighborhood homosexual. James, 2024.
He doesn't even try. He doesn't even try to defend that one.
Reimagining of Huck Finn from the point of view of the slave Jim. Here's the thing about James, a book I only know about and haven't read, and it highlights my issue with the publishing industry. Retelling of classic novels are super big these days. It's not usually a genre I'm into. Percival Everett has been writing incredible fiction for years, but the publishing industry seemed only to anoint him very recently. James was given the full rollout, the full confidence of the publishers. It felt like everyone saying together, this is the big one. Why? Because retelling of classic books are super big right now? Is it because Erasure was turned into an Academy Award nominated?
Was it written by a black slave, though?
I like that he's asking this question like, why is this book that's a historical retelling, but from the perspective of a black slave, getting all this mainstream push by the industry? I can't possibly figure this out. What could it possibly be? Why is this occurring, everybody?
Maybe there's an agenda going on. Maybe there's some agenda. Maybe they're trying to indoctrinate the youth of America.
Adam, are you saying there's some kind of woke agenda going on here? How dare you?
Film. Jumi has a point in calling out the National Book Awards. In fact, more people should be calling out how stupid these big literary prizes are. William H. Gass wrote in
my God, he completely sidesteps the whole issue.
Skips it. I know. He does. He says, "Oh, they're stupid," but doesn't say the very obvious reason for why they did what they did. They just like classical retellings, obviously. Sitch. There's no other possible explanation for it.
An old piece about the inherent uselessness of literary awards. In it, he writes, an award-winning book did not necessarily have to represent the private tastes of the judges or the board. It represented, rather, their judgment that it would be good for those who read it. Strive and succeed might have been the appropriate name for most of the winners, for that is what they preached. He wrote this in 1985, mostly about how often the Pulitzer Prize overlooked the truly great art of its time. Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rain.
Isn't he missing the point of that quote? Isn't the key term in the quote is, this would be a book that would be good for the people that read it. This is a message that the public needs to hear.
Was struck down by the Pulitzer Advisory Committee, and they just decided not to give the award to any book that year. Awards typically work to prop up popular taste. They are rarely judging based on quality alone.
Now, just to be clear, it's not even the wokeness that bothers me so much about books these days. I can actually still enjoy a book even if it has some wokeness. Like, if the wokeness is just sprinkled in a bit here and there and I can just roll my eyes and move on. But the bigger problem for me, this is a symptom of a much bigger problem we have in literature today.
Wait, hold on. Wokeness isn't what bothers her? Because that's been the video so far. Why would you front load your video like that?
So she said it from the... She literally said in the beginning of the video, you played it. She said in the beginning of the video that the problem wasn't necessarily that there's woke stuff in books, that they're all just about this, that they all have this one ideology you have to go with. She said that from the beginning.
There's no ideological diversity.
Yes.
It's all preaching to the choir. And if you're not in that choir, it's pretty fucking boring. You're like, oh my God, not this again. Holy shit.
Writers buy into a certain narrow worldview, which happens to be that of the college educated liberal. And in this worldview, you can often pick up on a kind of simplistic morality where it's obvious who the good guys and the bad guys are.
To this, I generally agree, but you can't always blame the writers themselves. This is a trend plaguing all the arts in a country where public funding of the arts is basically non-existent and where all art is fighting against a deluge of AI slop and where regular people are working so hard just to stay alive, just to keep a roof over their heads. It's no wonder why typically the most privileged, the already wealthy, have the free time and flexibility to pursue the arts. Later in the video, Jumi mentions MFA writing.
Wait, what? What
Yeah,
does
what
that
does that have to do with anything?
What's that have to do with what she said? She's like, oh, there's a very simplistic moral framework. She's like, and then he's like, well, that's not their fault. It's because only rich people can write books. What?
Yeah, that's a complete non sequitur.
Oh, fuck.
That is a complete non sequitur.
Was this like an editing mistake and he just left it in? He was responding to something else?
Writers as being an issue with contemporary literature, and that is a complaint that I see all the time, and I understand. I don't think there's an issue with people studying writing, and having the time to practice your writing is only going to make your...
Is he saying that only rich people have the time to be unindoctrinated? Because that doesn't.
Don't think that's what he's trying to say.
They're the ones running around with the luxury beliefs. They're the ones that are massively indoctrinated towards the progressive cause.
Mm-hmm.
Writing better, but the people who pursue higher education at this level typically have some financial support to make that possible. So often we get books from MFA writers that are about MFA writers or are about the upper class or about academia. There's nothing wrong with this, as Jumi points out.
Oh my God,
he doesn't get it.
He's accidentally acknowledging that, yeah, they're all woke because all these fucking privileged assholes who go to these stupid woke colleges and take really woke progressive writing programs are the ones that end up writing the books. He's accidentally giving the game away here.
Yeah, what's going on? How does he not know this?
Herself, but this limits the range of voices writing literature. As she says,
good literature makes you look at the world differently, or it gives you new insights into the way things are, or it might change how you interpret what's going on in the world. Fiction can put you in another person's shoes much more than movies or TV shows.
I don't know how one can express this sentiment and then rail against wokeness in books just because. She explains that she continues to read fiction because she cares about writing that...
It's so wildly dishonest. And his audience must actually be low IQ mouth breathers if they don't understand the point. If the point is, it's all one thing, it's all one ideology. And she says, yes, I want there to be multiple viewpoints. And he's like, well, I don't understand why you're complaining about wokeness. How dare you? Is he trying to say that wokeness is actually like the most diverse ideology ever and allows a complete, spectrum of beliefs, right? Is he going to pretend that? Even for, I mean, he could even argue, he can make that argument and be completely wrong. We don't know he's full of shit, but he doesn't even make that argument.
I mean, that's the advertisement of wokeness, that you're supposed to be including all of these various different perspectives that have been shut out for the white colonial perspective that's been thrust, the heteronormative perspective that's been thrust onto all of us.
But in reality,
that's kind of the cover story. Yeah.
Right. But in reality, it's the opposite. It's, you have to have a rainbow coalition of different variations of identity based on your skin color and your sexuality, but you better all have the same fucking ideology or you're going to get thrown out on your ass.
Reflects what is going on in our own crazy time, novels that talk about the present. This exposes my deeper issue with Jumi's perspective. Focusing on the wokeness is dumb, yes, but this gets to the heart of it. I agree that I want books exploring the messiness of now. Though I've only read a couple of the stories so far, Tony Tulathamute's 2024 short story collection, Rejection, seems to do just that. His writing is thorny and difficult and challenging, much in the same way I see certain movies grappling with challenging subjects. Eddington, whatever you think of it, earnestly dissects social problems like hyperpartisanship. The drama was a super interesting exploration of cancel culture, and that was a relative box office hit. Literature of today, if I were to make broad generalizations, is more and more interested in saying...
It's funny because if you look at that Rejection book, it says one of the core themes is the chronically online experience. The story sharply satirizes internet culture, modern dating, and the way we see connection. So if he's going to bring this up as a counterexample, and that's him acknowledging that he knows exactly what she means when she says woke, and he's just been lying this entire time in this conversation.
That book's anti-woke?
It's claiming to be talking about chronically online experience, which sounds like it's going to be poking fun at the woke shit. This is So that rejection thing, it's got multiple short stories in it. This is okay. Maybe I was wrong here. Look at this is the plot for the first story. The first story is titled "The Feminist." It centers upon an unnamed male character who insists he is a feminist, but is frequently irked about and resentful of women's dismissal of him as a potential romantic partner. He blames women's decade-long rejection of him on superficial issues such as his narrow shoulders and women's apparent callousness and selfishness, calling women who reject him shallow hypocrites. His loneliness and anger manifests itself physically. He develops something adjacent to erectile dysfunction as well as cognitive issues. Things take a dark turn when his friend, who he only refers to as his QPOC, so I guess his queer person of color, agender friend, calls him out for his endless self-pitying, insisting that his interest in feminism is entirely self-serving and thinly veiled emotional attempt to manipulate women into having sex with him. Outraged by this confrontation, the narrator regresses more and more into the online world of misogyny and inceldom, attacking women and men who support women online. The story ends with the narrator entering a restaurant he frequently visits with a black ski mask on, implying that he intends to bring his violent thoughts about women to real life.
Yeah, that's
Now,
woke as fuck.
I know that does not sound like any sort of remote fucking critique of wokeness whatsoever.
And obviously that's they pitch a caricature of
the angry incel.
The angry incel.
Right.
Yeah, that we've all heard a million times before.
Mm-hmm.
The wrong things and exploring people being bad and incorrect. I think that throughout the 2010s and early 2020s, there was much more of a homogenized worldview in literature. Remember #own voices and the hyper-focus on policing of what writers could or couldn't write about based on their own identities? While well-meaning in some regards, it led to writers and publishers and readers being incredibly neurotic about what they could or couldn't read or write. This trend has fallen by the wayside along with some other publishing trends. I mean, why not mention that in this video?
Here's the fundamental issue we have right now. In order to write interesting books, a writer needs to, first and foremost, be able to see. They need to be able to pick up on the interesting things that are happening around them and interpret them with fresh perspectives. And having fresh perspectives means you have to sometimes question your assumptions.
Absolutely, I agree, but why does that exclusively mean left-leaning writers and not those on the right? It just seems to me that Jumi wouldn't mind a
because all of the books that are being pushed are all one directional.
Because they're all left-leaning writers. That's the only writers that are getting published.
That are getting pushed out in the front of the bookstore that are getting the awards. That's the point. Which she said multiple times, which you're completely aware of. And you're like, but what? Why? I don't understand. Why is it only the left that needs to reflect here? I guarantee you talk to any author or anyone trying to become an author.
Oh, they'll just tell you straight out.
They'll tell you straight up. They know exactly what's going on. Screenwriters know exactly what's going on. They all know they have to shove this stuff into their work in order to get attention.
Didactic novel as long as the message the novel preaches is conservative. I find didacticism annoying from every angle, to be honest. I don't think the solution to making books better is to just make them preach from the other side. I'm going to move along a little faster here.
Not remotely what she's asking for. And look, that's the problem right there. How do you write a moving story that is devoid of the politics, right? That is going to be something that's going to appeal to all political persuasions. That's the question. That is the tough thing to do. And if you could write that book, the problem is the publishing world would shoot it down because they'd say, no, this book, you've done a no here. What you've done is terrible. You've depicted conservatives as actually anything beyond subhuman.
Because Jumi starts covering specific issues she has with some recent books. She complains extensively about Sally Rooney, author of Normal People. She's a huge author, very successful. Jumi takes issue with the fact that Rooney writes about characters who talk openly about communism and complain about capitalism.
There were numerous times when the main characters reminded us that they had the right political opinions or mentioned that they were a communist or sympathetic to communism. Because they're just like the author herself.
For someone who wants writing that forces...
He completely stripped all of the context out of that.
Of course.
She was she was basically saying that in the context of the book, it was just, this is part of the characterization. She wants these characters to be communist because that makes them likable to the audience without exploring any of the reasoning behind that. It's just, it's basically two-dimensional characters, which I hope you would agree, two-dimensional characters suck. It's
like the reverse of, like trope in a story is, you have the villain like kick a dog, right? It's right in the beginning of the story. You're like, oh, I don't like that guy. Right? And then you have the hero. The hero says capitalism's bad, so they're the good guy.
Instead of saving the dog from the kicker, which would appeal to everyone, right?
Readers to question your assumptions. Jumi seems uninterested in questioning assumptions. If you've been around young people in their 20s, it would be inaccurate to
How can he say that? This whole video is about her questioning assumptions.
Like the author herself.
For someone who wants writing that forces readers to question your assumptions, Jumi seems uninterested in questioning assumptions. If you've been around young people in their 20s, it would be inaccurate to reality to depict them not discussing the ills of capitalism. This is the reality today. People are living in precarity, and young people are unafraid to discuss these topics with each other. I've only read one Sally.
I don't even know if that's true, but secondly, if that was true, that'd be the point, is that she's saying there's one cultural meme that everyone's kind of agreeing on. It's this woke nonsense, and it's completely dominating the literary space. And that there should be books that come in and challenge it. That's what the point. That's the entire point of the fucking video. And he's like, what is she talking about?
There's multiple perspectives on the cause of the precarity that people are feeling. Yes. And a compelling book would explore a lot of those different themes, and not just blame it all on the one theme that progressives believe it is, right?
Yes.
Rooney book called Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I didn't love it. Her prose is very plain and the characters were bland to me after a while, but it's clear to me that she is interested in depicting the issues of being young and finding love. Is it especially deep? I mean, I don't think so. It's very funny to claim that all the readers of Sally Rooney...
He's just listing off all the books he's read. Nobody gives a fuck your opinion on these books, okay?
Rooney are also Marxists. Like, these books are insanely popular. I'm pretty sure my aunt doesn't subscribe to or even think about the ideas of Karl Marx.
She shrugged and said, it's something to do with capitalism. The guy responds, yeah, everything is. That's the problem, isn't it? Could these people...
Isn't that what makes it subversive? Is that his aunt is reading this book. She's not very politically motivated or ideologically, thinking about things. And then there's all this like pro-Marxist messaging like shoved into this book for no reason.
That's the manipulation.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Be more insufferable.
Pro-life messaging, he'd be fucking losing his shit. Oh my God. How can you put that in a book? That person might be a Supreme Court justice someday.
Jumi goes on to complain about a couple of other novels for their woke politics, but she is covering much of the same points.
Let's jump. I want to jump to her video for a second here.
He's really touched on none of her arguments in the book or in the YouTube video.
But I think it's important to kind of hear, she kind of like lays out her argument. And then she really goes into that author and gives like example after example after example after example after example of like weird woke shit being shoved in the book. So you can notice he just was like fixates on this one line. And he's like, well, of course kids talk about Marxism, silly lady.
It's a fundamental issue we have right now. In order to write interesting books, a writer needs to, first and foremost, be able to see. They need to be able to pick up on the interesting things that are happening around them and interpret them with fresh perspectives. And having fresh perspectives means you have to sometimes question your assumptions. But instead, we have the situation where many of the contemporary writers today buy into certain ideologies, and often those are a package deal. What I mean is, if you buy into things like wokeness, you often know what they think about many other topics like abortion, immigration, science, climate change, the expert class, etc. I'm not saying all left-wing people are that way. By the way, there are some that aren't like that and will have more nuanced perspectives and who aren't woke for that matter. But in the world of literature, we just have armies of woke writers that, I don't know how else to put it, they all basically think alike. They're all...
What woke people do buy into the package. That's kind of what makes them woke. They don't have any ideological diversity on any issue whatsoever.
All confined to the same narrow worldview with certain baked-in assumptions. To illustrate what I mean, let's talk about someone like Sally Rooney. So Sally Rooney is an Irish author, and she's been called the first great millennial novelist. Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world. She's a very, very successful writer, especially for a literary writer. I'll talk a little about her book, Normal People, which was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize, and one of her other books, Conversations with Friends. In both of these,
She goes into like the self-insert thing. Us all just self-insert. They're basically just writing who they are.
there were numerous times when the main characters reminded us that they had the right political opinions or mentioned that they were a communist or sympathetic to communism, because they're just like the author herself. She is a self-described Marxist. She's called herself that in interviews. So in Conversations with Friends, for example, the main character calls herself a communist, and she says she wants to, quote, destroy capitalism. At one point, she says that it should be illegal to have a holiday home anywhere. She also considers masculinity personally oppressive. And at one point, when she's with a group of friends and they're talking about how all cops are racist bastards, she says that she sometimes feels, quote, drawn to disclaiming my ethnicity, as if, though I was obviously white, I wasn't really white, like other white people. She gets
Now, why exactly did Man Carrying Water not bring any of this up? Isn't that fascinating? He just skips over all of this stuff completely. Oh,
Because it's all woke as fuck. Yeah. And
very
she's
interesting.
completely articulating her argument very clearly and succinctly.
involved with an actor named Nick, and coincidentally, he says that he's basically a Marxist. Mind you, it's not like they met at some Marxist meetup or something like that. He's just coincidentally also a Marxist because, and I'm going to speculate here, but I think it's because the author wants you to like Nick. She wants you to like him as a character and be sympathetic so that you root for the love story between Francis and Nick, because they both have to have the right political beliefs. Anyway, after he tells Francis that he's basically...
What if she fell in love with a right winger? Oh my God.
That'd be subversive. Or she'd have to fix him.
He apologizes for owning a home. He says, I acknowledge that it's troubling. In other words, troubling to own a home. Okay. Nick also...
Look, but in the love story, she knows it wouldn't be believable for a girl to like a guy who didn't have his shit together enough to own a home. So she's like, well, I'm conflicted here. He's got to own the home. Otherwise, he's a fucking incel.
Right. But he has to acknowledge that it's troubling to own a home. What a fucking God.
Oh, man.
What a joke. Oh, I know it's troubling to acknowledge my home ownership.
This is hilarious. None of this made it into Man Carrying Water's video, obviously, because it interferes with him carrying water for communism.
Right.
If there's characters in these books that give a fair argument, counter argument to any of these claims, these anti-capitalist claims, I'm like, yes, okay, that book, that's a complicated book that's interesting. But this is only going to appeal to people who believe this shit, who believe capitalism is destroying society.
Tells Francis that his father is right-wing. And when Francis asks him, is your dad actually right-wing or was that a joke too? He says, oh no, he's a real wealth creator, hates women, absolutely detests the poor. I mean, it's...
That's right-wing for you, right? Is that greedy racist stereotype enough for you there, Sitch?
That's
Didn't I just nailed it?
It's pretty on the nose.
It's not surprising that right-wing people are caricatured here because I'm going to guess none of these people, including the writer, have made an honest effort to understand right-wing people. One of the other main characters is also super woke. So Francis's best friend, Bobby, who's a woman, she calls herself gay. Actually, Francis and Bobby were once involved because Francis is bisexual, of course. Anyway, Bobby had once gotten suspended at school for writing "fuck the patriarchy" on the wall. And there are many parts of the book where she's spouting off about capitalism as well. And at one point, she says that monogamy was there to serve patrilineal societies by allowing them to pass property to their genetic offspring, as if monogamy only benefits men. I could go on with more examples that show how much these characters are all in the same little world. And it's not that the author is satirizing them or anything like that. It's more like these are the kinds of people she knows. And obviously I'm speculating here, but it also feels like she wants you to know that these people have the right opinions because these are also her opinions and the opinions of her readers. Now, technically, I don't have a problem with someone writing from a pro-Marxist view or whatever. I mean, I'm not sympathetic to Marxism at all, but if a novelist can make Marxism look appealing or at least approach it from an interesting angle, great. I mean, you could sympathize with a murderer, like in Crime and Punishment. The main character is a murderer, but you kind of sympathize with him. But in Sally Rooney's books, you just have these characters criticizing capitalism or the patriarchy or whatever, and they virtue signal and preach, and There's absolutely nothing interesting about it because there's no looking at these issues as the complex topics that they are. They're just accepted. It's totally sophomoric. I've seen this a lot actually, where authors will sprinkle in substantial topics like critiquing capitalism or the patriarchy, but it's a really shallow take. And it's almost like they just serve to give the impression that the novels are significant, to give them some mock gravity so that they'll be considered literary. Like I found that to be the case in this book, Autumn by Ali Smith. This book was critically acclaimed. It was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize and listed on places like the New York Times as one of the top 10 books of the year, things like that. Anyway, this book was sort of marketed as a meditation on the divisions caused by Brexit. That sounds interesting, right? But I read this book, and that's not what this book was. The author just sprinkled in a few observations about immigration or Brexit as an afterthought. Again, like they were there just to give the text a mock gravity. Also, I felt like she was strawmanning the other side with some of the things that she sprinkled in there. Like she was just preaching to her own kind. I actually didn't hate everything about this book, and there were some good parts to it, but I think it was a bit overrated. Anyway, going back to Sally Rooney, I know I'm picking on her a lot, but I just feel like she's so emblematic of the problems in...
How come none of this is in his video? What's going on here?
Because then he'd actually have to address the points.
Yeah, she has some real arguments here. Some great, tasty arguments about straw manning.
contemporary literature. Plus, she's one of the most successful literary writers alive today. Anyway, her books at the core are basically just romance novels. They're romance novels for hipsters. But because Rooney throws in certain fashionable topics here and there, like capitalism and racism, that fools people into thinking that what they're reading are more than just romance novels. Not that there's anything wrong with something just being a straight up romance novel. Whatever, that's fine. But I just want to call her books for what they are. I just want to give one more little example from one of her books of how vapid it gets. In her book, Normal People, there's a section where the two main characters, Marianne and Connell, they're walking through this abandoned house. It's a place where local high school kids go to drink and stuff, and they go check it out. And when they see that this abandoned house has 4 bedrooms, one of the characters, Connell, the guy, he says, just lying empty, no one living in it. Why don't they give them away if they can't sell them? The other character, she shrugged and said, it's something to do with capitalism. The guy responds, yeah, everything is. That's the problem, isn't it? Could these people be more insufferable? No, these are young people saying this. They're either in high school or college when they say this. I can't remember. Anyway, they're young, so I can understand that this is the way a lot of young people think because, let's just be honest,
they listen to
that's how
song.
schools tend to indoctrinate kids these days. But the problem is this...
Hey, can you imagine, like, if the response to that was like, oh, it has something to do with all these illegal immigrants coming to our country? Can you
Or if somebody
imagine,
stepped up and said, they're going to give it to somebody, and then a crackhead is going to move in, and all the neighbors are going to have to deal with this crack house right next to them.
You think man carrying water would have the exact same reaction to this?
Oh, of course not.
That's what the kids are talking about. They're talking about the immigrants, okay? They're talking about the crackheads.
All kids today aren't this crazily woke. I think there's plenty of kids who realize this is all just bullshit.
Yeah.
Even if they just want to be contrarian, they're against wokeness.
Kind of sophomoric outlook is what the author thinks too. She's said as much in various interviews, but you don't have to listen to any interviews of her to know that. You can tell from reading the books. Again, there's no critique of these ideas or looking at them in an interesting way. They're just to preach to the choir. There was this...
Okay. So there you go. You can see nothing like that addressed, completely cut out because he'd actually had to respond to that stuff.
The argument is all these books are just preaching to the choir, and that's boring for people who are not in the choir. And most people are not in the choir.
Much of the same points. When discussing the book Decline of the Novel, she says,
I think this started sometime in the 20th century. At some point around then, literature became more focused on the self and self-expression. But have we overcorrected? Has literature become too much about self-expression at the expense of subject matters that are more profound? I'm a bit agnostic on this.
I struggle to understand it.
Are those cuts hers?
No.
I don't remember her having
They're
those
not.
cuts in.
They're probably his.
There was that was 3 different clips sandwiched together.
Exactly what she wants from contemporary literature besides leaving out woke subjects. She complains about stylistically.
She never said that. She never said she wants woke subjects out of the books.
Yes, she did, Adam.
No, she didn't. She said she was just fine with books being woke, but that there was an overrepresentation and that they were just vapid and sophomoric.
If you don't like woke things in books, even though there are no woke things in books because we can't even understand what woke means, and you're a racist and a bad person.
Innovative books and even rails against, get this, James Joyce and William Faulkner.
I do think that some of the works that have become hyper-focused on the interior got so myopic that they became unreadable. A lot of these fall under modernism. People like James Joyce or Faulkner.
Do you remember what Faulkner said about readers who don't understand his books after reading them 2 or 3 times? Read it a 4th time. I personally love novels that are challenged.
Now he's just attacking her, just to attack her. This is so misogynistic. He's like,
obviously,
if you
a
didn't
woman,
like Faulkner, you got to read it a 4th time.
Obviously, a woman can't understand a great male author like Faulkner, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I love smaller publishers like Fitzcarraldo and Donkey Archive, and they even show up at my local bookstore. There is wonderful, challenging fiction being written. It's just not going to be found on this table. And that's fine. It never has. I will say that Jumi wraps up this video with a fitting insight about this topic.
Wait, but what about all the ones that got awards that were also hyper woke and terrible? What about those books?
Also, it's possible to create an overly rosy picture of literature in the past because the books that have survived or became classics, maybe they're better than average. So it could be that proportionally there was just as much slop back then as well.
I mean, yeah, if you read the most popular books of, let's say, the 1920s, you will be shocked by how bad most of it is. We look into the past at art that has already stood the test of time. The Sound and the Fury did not win the Pulitzer Prize. Do you know what did? A book called Laughing Boy. I've never heard of that. I guess I'll try to sum things up by agreeing.
Look, he copies her pearls of wisdom at the end there.
I know.
She makes a compelling point about how these great books of this time probably weren't that popular, and there was probably a bunch of popular slop coming out at the same time. She just doesn't know about it, and it's survivor's bias. That's her argument, not his.
I know. Well, part of the grift is, if you recall, at the beginning of this video, when he was pretending that he just randomly stumbled upon this video and actually wanted to watch it in some sort of honest, accepting, open way, he's like, "Oh, she says some things I agree with and some things I disagree with," which makes it sound like 50-50, right? Even though we're 22 minutes into the video for him to get to something that he says he agrees with.
He just has a very condescending tone all the way through this.
In all his videos he does, he's an incredibly condescending person.
It's funny that he says, don't go and attack her in the comments or make her life miserable. But he's definitely not encouraging people to subscribe to her channel. He's basically casting her as an idiot that you should avoid at all costs.
With Jumi on this. We should not be kept comfortable in our own political bubbles, and art should challenge us. But this video argues something different. It suggests wokeness is an all-consuming ideology and nothing good can be written with its inclusion, whatever wokeness even is.
Even though she literally said not that, and you even had the clip
quite
of her
the
saying
opposite.
that.
Yeah, that's so disingenuous. Why you got to be such a liar, mustache man?
Conversation. I mean, this whole video is just about these types of literary books. A lot of publishing is chasing short-term trends, and so many writers are scared to let a book linger with a reader's thoughts. There's so much more to say about this, but I don't think that wokeness is the leading issue here. When I think about writers who confronted issues of their own time, I often think of Rod Serling, creator of The Twilight Zone. A fascinating person, a World War II vet who fought TV censors relentlessly, who advocated for civil rights. Would he be called woke if he were alive today? What do you think? I learned so much more about...
No, he'd be called a colonizer, a white straight male. He'd be called a misogynist.
Yeah, they always lean on this hyper disingenuous... maybe it's not disingenuous. It's like a retard argument. It's a midwit argument where it's like, well, if someone in the past was advocating for social change and I'm advocating for social change now, we must be the same. Or are you the same? Are you the same as, you know who else advocated for social change? Hitler. It's so stupid. They're like, well, he was advocating for social change, so therefore it's the same. It's like, yeah, the difference between advocating for social change towards a colorblind, a colorblind individualist society where people are not judged by the color of their skin or something to that effect, comparing that to people that are advocating that we move away from a colorblind society and then we should actually be a highly collectivist society where we are judging people on the basis of their skin color.
Yeah, that's a kind of a giant difference.
Yeah, seems a little.
Glad you
little
pointed
different.
that out.
Rod Serling recently by watching the first episode of Captain Midnight's new series called Showrunners that's on Nebula. I love Captain
Oh my God. And the only reason he brings up Rod Sterling is so that he can do a fucking Nebula sponsorship.
The Nebula
Talk about
sponsor.
sucking the dick of capitalism.
I know.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, this is why he hates himself. He's like, oh my God, I got to do these spots. I got to personally be responsible for ruining YouTube by doing these sponsorship spots in my content. This crap that nobody wants to fucking listen to or see. What a loser.
I know.